I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in the sports card market by speculating on player performance. And even though it's a strategy you can win big on, in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly why it's one of the most difficult and inconsistent strategies to rely on in the card market. And I'll also share with you a handful of alternatives if you're someone that's trying to build up a consistent income with sports cards that are going to give you a more reliable edge. So with that, let's dive in and let's talk about sports card speculating. So I want to start by defining this just to make sure we're speaking the same language here. But when you hear the term speculating in the card market, we're talking about buying cards of a specific player, hoping that the player's performance is going to drive values higher. And so anytime you're buying right before the season, you're speculating on player performance. Like that's what you're effectively doing. And so I'm here to tell you that if you're buying football cards in the early fall, right before the season begins, you're already too late. Like this is not the time to be buying football cards. And we'll talk about this shortly. But just like for football, right before the season isn't the right time, it's the same for basketball. It's the same for baseball. We don't want to be buying right before the season. And so I'm going to talk to you about 3 reasons that speculating is difficult and inconsistent. And then I'll share with you a couple of alternatives here. So reason number 1, the preseason is the time of year where there is maximum excitement around the sport. The hype is hitting its peak, and we're at this point where anything is possible, right? Like you can make an argument for just about any player, like this guy's going to be the MVP this year, or this team's going all the way, or this is the year that he's going to take the leap to the next level. And because the players haven't stepped onto the field yet, there's nothing that anyone can say to completely disprove those claims. And so we see all these like crazy expectations for a lot of these players in the preseason. And so that's what makes it really difficult to get a good price point because of all of the hype, all of the excitement. That means that the values of cards are getting pushed higher. And that means that if you're buying at this time right before the season begins, you're basically signing up for a bad entry point where you're paying this relative high price. And that positions you where you need the card to go even higher to actually be able to profit on it. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is we've got to be able to predict the future consistently. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a crystal ball. And that means that this is just hard to do, right? Like to actually get it right over and over and over again. And the other part of this is it's not about picking the players who are going to play well. Values do not rise when a player plays well. So you can pick a guy that has a great season and it might not be enough to raise the values of his cards. And the reason for this is because it's not playing well that raises prices. It's playing well compared to the card market's expectations that pushes values higher. And so what I mean by that is we already know that Patrick Mahomes is the type of guy that's going to go out and throw 45 touchdown passes this year. And so people are paying top dollar for his cards, expecting that level of performance already because we've seen it before. We know he's capable of that. And so when he goes out and throws for 45 touchdowns, nobody cares. Like it's kind of what we expected. So you're not going to see his values pushing even higher because that's exactly what people were already paying for in the preseason. Now, if he goes out and throws for 60 touchdowns, that's a different story because then he will have exceeded expectations and that's what pushes values higher. So again, it's not about just playing well. And this is what makes this difficult. And this is where a lot of people kind of underestimate how difficult this strategy is because you think you pick the right player that's going out and having a good season. But if the market's expectations for that player were already sky high, like even if he plays well, you may not see the rise that you think that your player's cards actually deserve. So this is the second reason here. Predicting the future is difficult. Now, reason number 3, there's really no timeline. So anytime we're speculating on performance, you don't know if it's going to take a week, a month, a year, 3 years, 5 years. I've had cards in the past when I was doing a lot more of this where I bought a card and I had to hold for 4 years before I was able to flip it profitably. And that just puts you in a position where you don't know what to expect. You can't be predictable. You can't drive any kind of consistency if you don't have a timeline. And ultimately, that means we're kind of just hoping for the best. The other part of this is no matter how smart you are or how good you are at evaluating player performance or upside or hype, it's just difficult. It's tough because the can't miss prospects absolutely can miss. They can and they do miss. And so it's really, really difficult to get this right. And it happens every year. So if we're looking at football, 2022, Mac Jones was the talk of the town. Like everyone was going in on this guy's cards, spending tens of thousands of dollars. Infamously at this point, his Black Prism 1 of 1 got pulled by a kid and sold for $100,000. Like, there's no way you would even get a tenth of that at this point for a Mac Jones card, because he fell flat. Like, he did not meet the crowd's expectations, and his values have fallen and fallen and fallen some more since then. Trevor Lawrence was the next one up in 2023, and his stuff was up massively going into the 2023 season. And I'm sitting here like, man, looks like some nice profits for anyone with Trevor Lawrence cards. But the people who held or who were buying right before the season, trying to get even more out of them, with his performance, well, guess what happened? He came out flat, his values dropped, and now they're down by 80-90% from where they once peaked. 2024, you could put Anthony Richardson here, you could put Will Levis here. Like, there's multiple players every single year who are like, they're the hobby darlings, like the guys that everyone thinks is going to go out and go off this year or take that next step. And then it just doesn't always happen that way. So this is where it gets difficult. And when you're looking at this, this is the last few years here. So when we get to 2025, it's not a question of whether or not this will happen. It's just a question of who is it going to happen to? Who is it going to be? Someone out there, one of the names that people are spending big money on right now is going to flop. And so if you're buying right before the season, one, you're likely paying top dollar for the cards. Two, your player has to perform above the card market's expectations, which are probably higher than they should be. And that makes it really difficult to do. And then third, you just don't know when or if it'll ever happen. And so that puts us in a position where we're just signing up for a strategy that gives us almost no control over the outcome. And it's really hard to build a consistent income when we're in this position of kind of just hoping for the best, right? And so, of course, you can be strategic about who you pick. But when we're picking them right before the season and we're hoping that their performance drives values higher, this is where we just are giving up control and we're banking on the player to just take over. Sometimes it works out. Most of the time it does not. And so you might be sitting here saying, well, okay, Ryan, I got it, but when is the time to buy? Because surely you can make money on players by, timing things correctly, right? And the answer is absolutely yes. But we've got to stop speculating on player performance and shift our mindset and instead speculate on the speculators. This is a cardboard profit way of life. You just live by this, and you're going to put yourself in a position to succeed way more consistently. And so the question here, when you're thinking about, okay, how do we speculate on the speculators? What does that even mean? Well, ask the question, who is the crowd gonna be in on this year? Like, which players are the ones that are gonna be perceived to have upside going into the following season? Who are people gonna bet on? And a good way to figure this out is to ask yourself, like, who do you think is gonna be that guy that's gonna step up into the spotlight next year and have a big breakout season? Because the way that you feel is likely similar to the way that other people feel too. Like, we all have access to the same information. And so you saw what the player did last year, or you can read the scouting reports. And so if you're excited about a player, there's a pretty good chance that other people might be too. So that's a decent place to start if you're trying to figure this out. And so once we figure it out, the idea here is to buy early when attention is focused elsewhere. So for example, if you're, sitting there toward the fall, the winter, and you're looking at, everyone's diving into football, basketball cards because they're both in season. What's not getting a lot of attention toward the end of the calendar year is baseball cards, right? Like, no one's sitting down to Thanksgiving dinner, with a football game on in the background, just super excited about a baseball card. The interest just isn't there the way that it will be in the springtime going into baseball season. So you start to understand there's this kind of cyclical pattern here that happens over and over and over again. And so the idea is to buy early, get out ahead of the crowd. And then the key is to sell before the season to the speculators. And yes, you're going to pass some of the upside on to the person that's buying that card from you. I'm here to tell you that that is okay. You might lose on one of these cards now and then, but by locking in the profits before the season, that's what gives you the consistent wins over time. You're going to hit singles and doubles, but you're going to do it all year long instead of having these, big swings for the fences where you might connect every now and then and hit a home run, but you're going to be striking out a ton along the way. And so this is why I like selling out before the season begins. And so while you pass the upside on to the buyer, you also pass all of the risk of underperformance, of injury, like all those things that can go wrong that can just derail card values quickly. So yes, you pass on the upside, but you get away from all that risk. And that's what helps you stay more consistent with the results over time. And so, again, locking in the profits without the risk is kind of the name of the game here. Now, a couple of examples I wanted to show you, going into the 2025 football season, even just the 3 months prior, you can see Joe Burrow here. He was up by 22%. And guess how many football games he played during this stretch? Yeah, that's right. Zero. This is from June through August, and he's up this much just because of the excitement and the buildup going into the season. Josh Allen, another example, same time frame from June through August here, and you've got a 26.5% increase in his cards. And guys, this is just his overall index. There's some cards that are up way more than this if you get to some of the rarer stuff. And so there is big time upside when you can start to understand some of these patterns and you can get out ahead of the crowd. And instead of trying to pick the exact right player, you just get into the right type of player that the crowd is going to be in on. And that's where you make your money. So this, I want to be clear, there is no guarantee here because not all cards will rise, not all players will rise. Rarity matters quite a bit here. You can't buy a card that nobody cares about to begin with and expect people to just magically care because of the time of year. But if it's a card that matters and a player that matters, and you can just find it at a relative low point when people are focused elsewhere, like that's where there's oftentimes an opportunity to flip things for a profit because you have a card that people already are going to want. And so I want to be clear, this can be a winning play as a standalone strategy. It can also amplify the results of other strategies like grading, for example. If you align your grading orders with the seasonal swings, like this is a way to get better results. If you buy, baseball cards in November, December, and you send them off for grading and they come back in February, March, like you've given yourself a really good chance for the values not only to hold, but to rise while they're out for grading. So you can effectively double dip and win from the grading itself, but also from just the timing and the excitement and the buildup going into the season. So to summarize this, guys, speculating on player performance can pay off, and it can pay off big too. It really can, but it's difficult, it's inconsistent, and it's not nearly as predictable as some of the other strategies. So what do we do instead? Well, here's the part where I'm here to tell you, like, there are ways that you can win in the card market that are completely inconsistent, that completely rely on luck. And that to me is not a great way to run a business. Yes, you can have fun. You can go and open a pack. You can join a break. You can get lucky that way and make some money. Sure. Good luck. I hope you do. You can speculate on player performance. Maybe you're a really good picker and you can actually pick the right players over and over and over again. Like I've personally had a lot of success with this. And I want to say that I have a relatively proven, good, strong skill set there of finding those kind of undervalued names and investing in them at the right times and making money on this play. It's just that it's really difficult. And just as I've won, I've taken some big L's on this too. And so it goes both directions. And so what I like instead is plays where we can influence the outcome way more consistently, like grading, for example. It's a learnable skill. It's something that you can develop your skill set for what types of cards to target, develop your skill set for identifying what cards are actually in clean enough condition to get the grades you need that are going to add big value. And then you've got yourself a system that you can run over and over and over again because it's something that you control what you send for grading and when you send it versus leaving it kind of up in the air by investing in a player and not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing when the market's going to respond. And so that's what I like to do, is focus on those types of plays, play the seasonal swing game where you're buying early and selling early, speculate on the speculators, not the players. Go out and buy value, find deals that are below market where you can create the profit margin when you buy the card. Like, so there's some of these strategies that, they require varying levels of effort. So you got to decide what kind of business you want to run, but they are far more within your control as opposed to investing in a player and then kind of hoping for the best. So I hope this video has been helpful, hopefully a little bit eye-opening that yes, there's upside, but there are tons of challenges and risks that come with speculating on player performance. Now, if you're someone who's looking for more structure, more support, more guidance, a system that you can plug into, I run a program where I teach my exact proven system, the same plays that I've run for years. It's all around, helping you get on your feet without the long learning curve so that you can take a step towards your goals way faster and get support, community, coaching along the way. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to take a look at that and decide whether or not you want to be a part of it. But otherwise, guys, hopefully this has been valuable and we will see you on the next video.